Welcome back, guys, to the second episode of the heads-up review between Samjazzykins and Bitcoin Boy, aka VeniVidi, aka Dirk. Let's jump right back in. The first episode can be found below, link in the description, and we're going to jump straight back into the second episode. So let's see if we can find some interesting spots. Just going to fast forward a little bit. In the first episode, we talked a bit more about sort of like higher level strategy. And in this second episode here, we're gonna try to find some interesting hands. Okay, so the first one actually is over here on the right. Let's see how this plays out. Okay, so we see very loose defend, Jack 963. It's certainly looser than GTO. The ante here in play is not that large. It's only $20, which is less than a small blind. So anyway, flop goes check, check, turn. He picks up another gut shot. Obviously the open ender from the flop. No showdown value. I think it's a quite straightforward hand to just bet, pot. Try and take it down right there.
On the right, we're going to try and steal the pot with jack high.
Snap call, reverse a 3. And we did improve in some ways. Obviously we covered a 3, but we also have a 6. So we block ace, we block 5-6, but I think more importantly, we have no showdown value. So I think this kind of hand wants to bluff very often. And in terms of like finding the best bluffs, you know, it's sometimes difficult in PLO to find the best bluffs in spots like this, especially heads up where you have such a wide range pre. Because when you fire the turn for pot, you're going to have some equity. You're not just going to have a completely random hand. And if that equity misses, on the one side, you kind of have bad blockers. Like in this case, you have Jack 9. So you are holding kind of cards you want him to have. But you also need to find some bluffs. And I think a good way to approach it is to, first of all, think about which hands improved on the river. Do you block them in some ways? Holding 3-6 is certainly very relevant here. Your opponent can still have high clubs. You can still have just a queen. Can still have just a 10 that missed on the river. And the second thing you want to consider is how much showdown value do you have, right? Even if you had a 10 might win. If you had a queen, certainly you want to check. Or a hand like 2 jacks. It's certainly also a reasonable hand to check on the river. But just a pair of 3s, I think just given how low your showdown is, bluffing here seems certainly fine.
We have a pretty bad hand, but a decent candidate to bluff. So we're going to continue betting.
And the sizing choice I think is pretty interesting. He goes for a pot, basically saying he did improve to a straight on the river. And the thing is, if Sam has... Like Sam doesn't have queen 10 or queen 4 because that's not the way he plays on the flop when he goes check, check. So I think on the river, he's actually more polarized between straights, potentially a turn set, maybe I guess like queen deuce or 10 deuce, but he's going to have a lot more very weak hands and pretty strong hands like a straight or turn set. So I actually think on the river, you can also go smaller like half pot and take advantage of that. But it's obviously hard to identify that in the moment, and he also might disagree. But he goes for a pot. Sam makes the call very quick. And he does have... he does have 10-4, so he does play 10-4 that way. I thought he might just like bet all the 2 pairs on the flop. In this case, he also has an inside straight draw and a backdoor flush draw. So surprising check back there. I didn't expect that. And the river call, I mean, he doesn't have clubs. Does have 2 pair. Seems hard to make a fold here with this hand.
With
so
2 pair, nice hand.
Gets rewarded for the flop slow play.
On the
left hand side turn probe.
Straight.
Size is down there. That's interesting. Gonna move forward. On the right, very interesting flop. He just defends pre by calling. Check, check, flop, turn 4. Now you sometimes want to check raise turns it's a decent candidate, just given that he unblocks all the low stuff that improved. For example, deuce 4, 4, 4. He doesn't block a jack, so like jack 4 is a possibility as well. Maybe even a hand like aces that now improves to a hand like ace 3, ace 5, ace 4. So it's a decent hand that you sometimes want to check raise. The turn check raise line is certainly quite underutilized in poker. And this is a good spot.
We can bet and we can check to check raise there. I don't think that's a bad idea.
Goes for the check as well. River now is the king, and I think our hand is a bit difficult to value bet. First of all, Sam checked all the way down to the river, so it probably doesn't have much at all. But also we paired the king, so it makes it less likely as a hand like king 4 or just a king. But it's hard to say. Like if you think your opponent doesn't bluff enough in this sort of note when it gets all the way checked down, I guess you go for the bet and hope your opponent has a hand like slow played like deuce 4 or maybe just a king.
Doesn't fall for it. So now we're checking, betting on the left.
And then on the left, he decides to 3-bet pre and goes for half on king deuce 5. Interesting spot.
So now we're checking.
So if you go for half here on king deuce 5, like you're not folding this hand against the jam. You have backdoor nut flush draw. You have 3 overcards against king 5. You unblock all the hard draws that are jamming the flop that you're still ahead of.
On the left.
Okay, so Sam chooses to raise kind of small instead of potting. And I think the correct play here is, so you should realize that you're not an equity favorite against the entire range. You are running into 2 pairs, into sets, into combo draws. And against the entire range, you're not an equity favorite. So jamming here doesn't make a lot of sense. You just want to call and then re-evaluate on the turn. A lot of novice players are not that comfortable with that idea because they're like, what if the turn is a heart? Well, if the turn is a heart, then your equity plummet down to a massive equity underdog and you just check fold, which is a better result than getting the money in on the flop and then getting stacked on for your full stack on a bad turn because the money's already in. So the EV is much, much higher in a spot where you're behind like this to just call, reevaluate in the turn, and then get it in on safe turns, quote unquote. Like if the turn in this case is the 8 of clubs, I mean not 8 of clubs, let's say it's the 8 of diamonds, you still get it in, but obviously if the turn is a heart, you can get away from your hand.
We bet on the left and he's raising small. I think we have to call and see a turn.
And this is sort of like a, I like to call these turns as it's a good enough turn to lose your stack. Basically meaning you're not happy, but you can't fold. Should he open jam or go for check call? So if Sam has a better hand on the turn, I think he will always jam. Imagine he has king 5 or king deuce. I really don't think Sam will check the turn back. So against a better hand, you will always get it in the turn anyway. But there are some worse hands. So if Sam has the nut flush draw, that actually might check behind on the turn and realize your equity for free. So basically, against better, you get it in. Against worse, you give away a free card. Basically leads towards just donk jamming turn.
Now we do have enough equity to stack off. I'm gonna check and call if he shoves.
It's not going to make a big difference, but it's just... Quick interruption to talk about today's sponsor, which is coinpoker.com. The site that you can see in this video these guys are playing on is coinpoker.com. And if you're looking to play on a poker site where you have worldwide access and play in cryptocurrencies without the requirement of a KYC process, then coinpoker.com is the right address for you. Sign up today using sign-up code JNandez and get access to our exclusive free rolls of the PLO Mastermind community. So this month in September, at the 1st of September, we're going to run a $10,000 free roll. The price structure is very, very steep. So you can see the first price goes away for $5,000. There are not going to be many runners because only people who rake more than $200 are eligible for this tournament. It's an invitational tournament where we are giving away $10,000. If you do rake below $200 in August, you're eligible for a $3,000 free roll under the same sign-up code JNandez. Going forward, we're going to increase the prize pools and make this a really big thing, the invitational tournaments for the PLO Mastermind or under the PLO Mastermind. So if you're looking to participate in those and get other rewards, which you can learn more on plmastermind.com/coinpoker, then sign up today on CoinPoker using the sign-up code JNandez. And with that being said, let's get back to the video. My preference would have been to donk jam. Let's have a look. So Sam actually gets it in with a worse hand. I thought about a king x of hearts is, I guess, one combo that, I mean, if he open jams the turn, let me get rid of this. Okay, let's hope that I don't have a virus. But apart from that, if Bitcoin Boy jams the turn, this hand calls. But I suppose there is a chance that if he checks, Sam checks behind, I guess. So he kind of dodged the possibility of giving away a free card while being significantly ahead. But anyway, he gets it in 70%. Pretty nice.
We're ahead of his hand, and we hit the river.
Pretty clean river.
That's nice.
Interesting to note the sizing choice there by Sam on the flop, something that he probably will take a mental note on. I mean, I don't think he wrote that down right now, but he's probably just texted someone. But who knows?
I changed it so that you can watch back for 14 days or something.
What happens here?
I changed it so that you can watch back for 14 days or something.
Single raise pot, check, check, flop. Sam half pots a turn. Is this a single raise pot? Seems kind of a large pot. What happened here pre? He faces a donk bet and decides to call this time. Okay.
Change the
BDFD, turns a set. Okay, what happens now?
As long as Sam feels comfortable with me showing the heads up position.
Okay, so what do we see here? Bet another time of the turn. Sam checks the river. He might have a hand like ace jack, king jack. Easy value, but of course, as far as sizing is concerned, I honestly probably wouldn't size too large, so we can get called. Yeah, like a lot, maybe like half pot. 75.
Bet check, check. We're gonna check.
Oh, really?
Here.
That's interesting. Ace, queen, nine, deuce. I guess the lead out put him off in some ways. And over here we have a 3-bet pot, half pots at c-bet. Just gonna call.
Pretty gross if you get check raised, and we're blocking the ace, which is not great. That's where his hero calls are gonna come from.
Okay, so on the left he calls a 3-bet, calls a c-bet. On the turn you kind of have to weigh what your EV is with a check versus a bet. I don't think the EV for a check is very high, right? You could have the best hand, you could make the best hand. The EV for a bet really isn't that great. Like, you're not going to make better fold, but you might induce better to jam, which would be pretty big disaster. So you're getting more money in against better. And the disaster case is you get jammed, which I'm not sure what, are you going to call it off? Probably not. So I think just checking back has a lot of EV.
We're gonna bet. Here we're gonna hope for a good river.
That's a very good river.
Exactly what we hoped for.
And over here, what happens here?
River.
So he 3-bets pre, and then decides to go for half pot on the flop. Does block the ace, does block the queen, has a heart. Like, this hand doesn't perform that well playing check call because you don't have backdoor flush draws, you don't have straight draws. Like, you don't really benefit that much from the turn. So he just goes for half pot c-bet.
We're gonna hope for a good river. The 7 is definitely.
He does get raised. It's an easy fold.
Exactly what we hoped for.
Makes the fold, and over here, sizing wise. So if you think about the way the hand played out, he calls the flop, turn goes check, check, river's a 7. I mean, his value betting range is going to be basically a 7 only, a 3 bets the turn. So it's a 7 or nothing is the bulk of his value range for sure. So you want to go big. So far, so good. 3-bet call.
Open 3-bet call.
Not the flop you're looking for.
How much do I charge for coaching by the hour? I don't really coach by the hour.
Makes sense. Flops, trips.
Flop, trips. And we see bet.
Very bad turn. Check, check.
On the king, we're gonna check it back on the turn. And decide on the river.
So on the river, main things to consider is you have a diamond. Yes. Do you have spades? No. Diamond is more important. We don't love it for sure. You do beat a 7. You do lose to the king. It's very hard to fold this hand for half pot, honestly. I mean, a solver would never fold this hand for half pot. Because you're not going to have, like, you want to defend at a good frequency, and like king X bets turn often. So you can't just rely on king X. You have like other hands. A 7 is pretty nice to have, of course. So I would think we're just betting. We're just calling.
Betting,
half. It's very hard to justify folding. We're going to lose usually, which is fine. Against the nuts.
Nice hand.
For second nuts.
Here we
Looks like over here, 3-pair wants to check raise. 3-pair, another heuristic. Hand class wants to check raise, like almost full frequency.
Special hand and aces on the right.
So he check raises a7-4, gets called. So when you check raise and your opponent calls, the ranges change a lot. Like you have to completely readjust the way you think about the ranges on the turn, because your opponent has a much more narrow range. So your a7-4 and the deuce, it is a very different hand than on the flop. You might think the deuce is kind of a blank, but the hands that can bet call the flop are very condensed. It's a very specific type of range, right? Deuce of clubs, I mean, you don't have a 5 or a 3, which is not awesome. And you don't have a hand like 2-pair and a flush draw, 2-pair and a wrap, or wrap and a flush draw. So in terms of value betting finish, like if I had 7-7-5-6 or 7-7 with clubs, or even if you had like a7-4-5 with a straight blocker, or I guess like, especially with a club, some of those hands are just more comfortable betting. I think this is actually a good candidate to just check. Sam can bluff. Yeah, he can bluff. But again, the way you want to think about turn ranges is very different than on the flop. Now, things have changed a lot. Oh, actually, he's out of position. How is he out of position? I guess he raised against the flop donk. Okay, okay. So the decision to bet... well, the decision to bet comes in now as Sam checks. I'll probably check this back.
And we get it in.
Although the leading range on the flop, like the way he led before, was very, very merged. So he might just have like ace-4 or ace-king or something. Yeah, it is close here. Maybe it is a bet actually, because it was a lead decision. But it's hard to say. Here to get it in pre. Interesting.
Shows up with the kings.
King, 3-3 against aces.
So he's drawing very thin.
All right. And here, he doesn't bet turn, makes sense, and then river goes check, check.
Here on the left, we probably have the best hand.
Yeah, so Sam decided to lead the flop with deuce 5-8-8.
Turn is close, we can bet and check there.
Yeah.
Decided to check anyway.
Agree with that. Over here, call 3-bet. So on the right-hand side, 100 big blind steep. This is actually a good spot to just rip against Sam, because Sam bets very, very often. So if you find someone that bets super often, just pushing here is, print so much EV. I would say at equilibrium, are we also jamming? 7-6 is a low gutter. I mean, your opponent has a lot of good stuff here, but how bad can it be? I don't think this is a GTO push, but I think it's a good exploit.
right table. This flop is very good for the hands that people usually 3-bet. Obviously Sam is probably 3-betting a little bit wider now. It's gonna be hard to navigate this hand on the turn, I think, so we're gonna hope for some fold equity, we get it in. Stacks are flying.
Stacks are flying, are flipping here, even against top pair and a gutter and a flush draw. Still a favorite here with this hand.
50-50. And he gets it.
All right, one for Sam.
Nice hand, Sam.
Here we see another donk bet. Just call, obviously. Turn is a club. Sam has checked a lot of weak hands after donking. He also donked a lot of weak hands, so I would certainly value bet this, even though you don't block any pairs.
Gonna bet half pot here. And we river the flush.
Spotting.
Here we're gonna float with this hand. Take it down on the river, hopefully. Checks again. No, he doesn't check.
Single raise pot 7-5-3-3. This is a good hand to just call. Like, the reason this is a good hand to just call is because it's hard to improve. So the times you're behind a huge amount. So you benefit more so from keeping your opponent's range wide.
It's so nice to have a high-paced game like this.
It's almost like we both studied the same ideas. If there would just be a way to study the game in one way that is optimal. PLO Trainer. I haven't seen this footage before, but this is just like, this is the way you play.
Value.
What is this?
Bet small for value.
The river block. Okay.
Questions while we play.
Send a 3-bet call. 7-7 queen. I mean, both ranges are pretty wide. That being said, I guess against Sam, like, he probably overfolds against a very small sizing, so like betting small is fine. And against a better player, you got to be kind of careful what hands you want to bet with. Like ace-10, 6-6 doesn't barrel that well. Like if you had a hand like ace-jack, 10-9, or I suppose like jack, 10, 9-8 or something. Like those hands block middling pairs. They block a 7 to some extent. They can barrel on a lot of turn cards. They benefit from folds. I would imagine this hand is more of a check.
But there's also work to do. Drop your work, bro. Can be more important than railing some 25-50 heads up.
All right, here goes a small bet. I think it's more of an exploitative bet.
Did I make against
I push a bit forwards. Is this an interesting spot?
10.
What does he have? Oh, he has a boat. Sure. Goes for another value bet.
4-9-4.
Not too interesting. Very loose defend here. What is this? Check flop. He decides to check the turn. Unblocking 7-4. Makes sense. He goes for the semi-trap.
If we don't bust the roll today.
And then this thing here, it's just an easy river value bet. I mean, jack 6 could bet pot, could bet smaller.
We have a special hand on the right. 4 pair. Gonna set the trap. Take it down. Do I live in Brazil? I do not live in Brazil, but I have lived in Rio de Janeiro for 2 years in total. I was staying there 3 or 4 months every year. I really enjoy Rio.
3-bet, c-bet.
But I haven't been in 1.5 years, sadly. We c-bet here and we get raised by Sam and we can't continue with this hand. We're gonna 3-bet the aces on the left. Hope for a 4-bet. Get in as much money as possible.
Ace is Jack 5 with clubs. He has 1 diamond, 1 club, so he blocks some continues there. Could go for a bet. Like check calling feels kind of bad. I mean, it's probably fine just betting.
This flop we're gonna see bet.
Yeah, I mean, on the turn, you have like a lot better candidates to bluff with. You might have like a hand like Queen, Queen, 5, 4. You will have some flush draws. You will have like much better hands to bluff with, like ace high flush draws with a straight block, or like, I don't know, ace queen 5, 4 with hearts. So this hand can just go into the check fold
Cleaning lady.
line.
Yeah, she's really my cleaning lady.
Goes for check.
You watch too much porn, sir. Kind of sucks.
Also, like, if you're new to YouTube or Twitch, whatever, wherever he was streaming this, get some rough introduction to the wide range of people that watch your content. Okay, over here, 3-bet pot, half pot size c-bet. He flops the nuts. I mean, he's doing really fine just getting it in on the flop. Especially Sam is betting like quite mergy on the flop, so you might just have like the nut flush draw, no other draw, and get it in. And your hand doesn't realize that well, just calling and trapping over multiple streets. Raising flop, getting it in seems good.
Here we have a straight.
Raisy daisy.
We can raise, we can call, we're gonna call and stack off on the clean turn.
This turn is still very, very good.
It's pretty clean.
Do you want to raise and get everything in? I don't know. I mean... Oh, he has a boat. Didn't even realize he has a boat. I mean, on the turn, the fact that you don't have 7, 8 or any hearts kind of speaks more for just flatting. Looks like he wants to stack aces now. No, he just calls.
In position, so can get in the deal.
We don't know what this is. Is this... It's hard to say what this is, but we're just all in.
This way.
I mean, if you were to go bigger, you just flat.
Small size. We're gonna raise for value here. Sam does put some strong hands in. Snap call might be the full house.
Oh, Sam with the trap. He goes for the small sizing to induce. Pretty nasty stuff. 6 deuce against 5 deuce. Doubles through here or stacks Bitcoin boys. 16k pot.
Yeah, he's got us beat.
Unavoidable, like either way,
okay,
getting
yeah,
in the flop or the turn or the river. I mean, you're just gonna get stacked sometimes. See if we can find one more hand. So far in this session, Sam is having the better of Veni. He has a 8k stack here, but the big stack over here.
Love some high stakes PLO on Twitch. No limit next evening. I like,
See if we can find the big one.
pretty steep. We're gonna 4-bet on the left.
Oh, he's 4-betting this for 100 bigs. I mean, Sam has been 3-betting really, really wide. Snap call and give it a stack to pot ratio. Put it
Get our
in.
money in there.
You love to see a fold here in this spot, by the way. But if the money goes in, it goes in. You only have one pair after all.
Well, I got
Oh my god, he gives you the I got lucky here. You hate to see that when you have such a... I mean, when you have such a tough hand to improve on.
lucky here. It's a bad sign.
It's a very bad sign. He has... actually, he has only one pair. He has top pair, not flush draw.
Well, he's talking
Ooh, it's
very...
the pre-celebration. It's the pre-celebration. Maybe Sam doesn't know that yet, but in PLO, pre-celebration always gets punished.
early though.
gets punished by a similar hand. And with that, we're going to wrap up episode number 2. I'm going to shoot at least one more episode. If you guys enjoy this content, as always, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys in a bit for episode number 3.